Okay. So let's, first I would like to do is, I'd like to thank you for coming. My name is Brian Baber, and I have the pleasure of serving here at Florida State University. I teach in the Entrepreneurship program, and we've been doing these lunch and learns for several years now, and they've taken on a life of their own. And we're inviting some of the schools. We have folks from Arnold High School, correct? I know we have some folks from Bay High, and we have some folks from the collegiate school, obviously students from FSU and people from our community. And we're going to hear from my friend Jason Hedden today. He's going to tell us a little bit about his story and his entrepreneurship journey. And I would also like to say thank you to Hancock Whitney. So Tim Prather, where are you, Tim? There you are. Hey, I just want to say thank you. If we could put up on the slide, please, our thanks to our... Yes, I thank you to our sponsors. So you're eating on behalf of Hancock Whitney today. They covered the cost of your lunch. And let's give them a round of applause and say thank you. So, you know, it's nice when people from our community see what's happening here at Florida State and they want to invest in it, and they see what it does into the lives. You guys are going to get exposed to something today that you would have not have seen if you had been at your normal classroom. So good job showing up today. And we thank you for being here. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So Jason, let's get started, okay?
Let's do it. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming, and let's rewind the clock, okay?
Okay.
And let's talk about when you were younger. Did you have any entrepreneurial spirit when you were a kid that may have?
Yeah, I mean, I had the failed lemonade stands like every kid, you know.
Were they failures, really?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, your mom bought all the stuff for, it was
That's
just
okay.
your family. Nobody came by. They have their own lemonade. They don't want to buy lemonade. Yeah, no, I don't really remember. We hatched a couple plans, probably. We were going to have a yard sale. I regrettably sold all of my original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures to go to homecoming in 9th or 10th grade. Students, don't do that. Your kids one day would really love to have those action figures, so keep your toys.
Yeah, whatever's popular now, just get one. What it's called cherry, isn't it? If it's if it's still in the box and it's not opened, you want to hold on to that.
Yeah, I mean, mine were out of the box, but it would still be cool to have those figures. My son busts my chops all the time when I tell him about the toys I had that I gave away. So
that's awesome.
Anyway,
okay,
so no.
Okay, we're going to fast forward a little further.
No one
then.
in my family, nothing like that.
Let's go to college. Tell us about your college career. So a lot of these folks, they're either going to be going to college soon or they're there now.
Yeah, so I graduated Mosley High School in 1995, and I was a theater kid. I was drama club president, all that. And I got into a school in New York, and I got into a school in Miami, and I couldn't afford either one. So I reluctantly went to Gulf Coast, driving my mom's minivan, hating life. But I was blown away by the quality of the experience that I had there. And my professors became mentors and family. And everything I'm doing right now sort of started with the things I learned in Rosie O'Bork's Acting 1 class at Gulf Coast State College in spring of fall of 95,
What were some of the things that stood out?
Well, I mean, just doing this, right? Just the ability to sit in a room and hold a microphone and talk to people and not throw up and run away and die, right? I mean, this thing we're doing right now is a valuable commodity that not everybody knows how to do, right? Yeah. And so I learned that in the theater. Yeah,
there is something so powerful about story. Hearing someone else's story, and then later in life, you're gonna say, I remember how that guy dealt with this, or he went through this situation, and I'm in something kind of like that now, and it helps you. We teach theory a lot of times in the schools, right? But when you can attach a story to it, then it's got some handlebars that you can grab a hold of.
For sure. Well, I mean, one of my favorite things that they would do at Gulf Coast, and then I went to the University of South Florida and Ohio State, and then I was a teacher, and I would do this, is when you would bring people in, like guest artists, to share their story, and it's cool to see, that person used to be where I'm at right now, like sitting in this class. I went to Broadway the first time in 97, graduated Gulf Coast, 3 friends and I drove to New York City and saw 8 shows in a week. And it was weird. I remember seeing Grease on Broadway. The facilities for Grease on Broadway weren't as good as the Amelia Center Theater across the street at Gulf Coast. And I was blown away. I'm like, what? This is Broadway. The men and women's dressing room was separated by a sheet on a clothesline. And I was like, what? And I sat in a pickup rehearsal, and I heard the music director giving notes to this young Broadway actor, the same notes Rusty Garner had given me in my voice lesson at Gulf Coast a month earlier. And I was like, bam. And that's when I realized that Broadway is an address. And yeah, there's amazing stuff we saw that week. And there was also not good stuff we saw this week. Into this 19, 20-year-old, my brain was kind of blown, and I couldn't understand that. And I realized that good work is good work is good work. There's work happening in Bay County, Florida right now. Nikki, I see some of our local musicians, and Britt are here. There is work happening in this community that's as good as any work anywhere. I promise you.
That is awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's great. That is great.
Art, music, theater, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll definitely get into that. Some of the things that you're involved with that. So let's go down the journey a little bit further. So you graduated from college, and how did you know what you were going to do?
I didn't. I still don't know what I'm going to do. I don't. That's why I'm here. Yeah. I thought that that's what
this
you
was
were
an interview, actually.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the first thing. Like, it's like I'll be 50 later this year, and I'm like, when am I going to feel like an adult? Like, when am I going to be the guy that like knows what's going on? I still feel like a kid in my dad's shoes, right? You know, my new friend here, what was it, Jack? Jack's wearing a SEAL Team 2 hat. My dad was a Navy SEAL, and you don't see many of those hats around, and so that was cool. And I was going to early enlist in the Navy, and my dad talked me out of it. He knew me to know, I wanted the free college.
That wasn't going to be a good fit for you?
He just knew, and he was on his deathbed telling his friends about my plans to go to graduate school. And I was like, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
He knew what was, he knew the path for me more than I did. So I'm just following this theater kid thing, and somehow it ended up here.
You know, this reminds me, when I graduated from graduate school, it was 1999. Okay. And it was kind of probably close to the same time for you.
Right.
Yeah.
A little later.
Okay. Yeah. And there was a song, and there was a lyrics in the song that said, "Don't worry." It was called the graduation song of 1999. It became a hit somehow. I don't know.
Okay.
It was a hit in my world, right? and it said, "Don't worry at 21 if you don't want to know what you want to do with your life. Some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know," and that sounded like a long way away, "still don't."
Right.
And I go, oh man, that's cool. That's great to not you like you just said. What do you want to do with your life?
I'm doing it.
You're doing it. Yeah.
I guess I want to do this. I frequently don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. Right. So I went to Gulf Coast. I transferred to the University of South Florida in Tampa. And I was a theater major there. Then I moved out to Seattle, and I worked as a professional actor for a couple years. And it was weird because if you wanted to work in Seattle, you needed to live in New York, which was strange because of what I call zip code bias. It kind of ties back into that thing I said before. The patrons at the Seattle Rep wanted to see a New York City bio. So the actors in Seattle would leave town, move to New York to get hired to work in Seattle. And it was a weird thing. So there weren't a lot of equity contracts. So this is the union for professional actors. So I knew I didn't want to be 40 living in a basement apartment with no health insurance in Seattle, because I was working for like $150 a week as an actor in Seattle in 2000, right? And I'm like, who are the people that
hard to survive, right?
Who can do that? Yeah. My wife was my sugar mama. We've traded on and off throughout our marriage of who has the real job with benefits, and at that time it was her, and it's my turn now, so we trade off. But no, I decided to go to graduate school, because I learned, I started teaching children's theater, and I love that. And then I said, oh, I want to teach. Here's my criteria for teaching, by the way. You have to be able to read, and you have to be potty trained. Because I was teaching at a youth theater, and I walked in, and there was a younger kid from another class, and he was in the bathroom, and he had had an accident, and he's like, help. And I was like, I don't know all the rules, bro. Just, all right, throw him away, and you're just going commando the rest of the day. I think that's when it happened. We called his mom. I don't know. And I said, they need to be able to read, and they have to be toilet trained. That's my plan. So I said, college kids, most of them are toilet trained. So I only applied to grad programs that offered a full ride. Okay. So that's a bit of advice that I just knew I didn't want to go into debt for grad school, because there are places that will pay you to go to graduate school and teach for them. And at the time, there was 3 or 4 programs in that rotation. And I was fortunate enough to get in at Ohio State. And they were on the quarter system at the time. So I got 3 years of college-level teaching experience as a grad student. Instructor of record, not just TA grading papers. Yeah. So that was huge. That was awesome. Huge.
That is awesome. So why did you choose, why was going into debt important to you, like not going into debt?
Well, I don't know. Well, this was honestly, I mean, I borrowed money for undergrad. I mean, Gulf Coast was free and continues to be the lowest tuition in the state of Florida. But university, because here's the deal, as a theater major, how do you go to school full-time, work part-time, and have your evenings free for rehearsal? I'll say that again. How do you go to school full-time, work part-time, and have your evenings free for rehearsal? It was impossible to do. I was fortunate. I had a professor, Dennis Calandra at USF. Yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, Dennis. And he called me into his office after the first semester, and he said, what would it take for you not to have to work? Because I couldn't be involved in the productions because I was at work to pay for tuition to be at school. And I wasn't sure what he was asking me. And I'm going to get emotional talking about it. He basically created a scholarship for me to not have to work so I could be at school.
That's awesome.
And yeah.
But did he ever talk about what he saw in you? That
No. It was
it wasn't random, though. I know that.
Well, maybe not, but the compliment, and this will happen a lot in your life, it doesn't often come in specific words. It comes in actions. It comes in opportunities. It comes in friends showing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, showing up. So
are you supposed to cry on this show? I've been to a lot of these, Brian.
This is good part comedy, right?
Nobody cries at this. I don't know what's happening right now.
No, that's okay. You're allowed to cry.
I come to all these.
You're allowed to cry. But think about for a second, though. Maybe he didn't acknowledge the thing that he saw in you, but you were showing up. And so, remember the guy that ran for president years ago, Ross Perot?
Sure.
He goes, 90% of life is showing up.
Yeah,
Just show up. Be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and show that you're trying.
Right.
Right. And he probably saw that you were trying. And he wanted to help you. That's awesome.
Sure. And I get it.
That's a valuable lesson, by the way. Be where you're supposed to be, right? And keep trying. Yeah. And keep trying. People will notice.
They do.
Right?
And I've seen it in students too. And you try to. The best you can do is try to pay it forward a little bit.
Yeah.
But there are those key moments. Had I not been given that scholarship, I couldn't be involved in the productions. Had I not been involved in the productions, I wouldn't have had the resume that I had. I wouldn't have got into graduate school. Yep. Wouldn't have done. So it all sort of you see it in hindsight.
Okay. So how long of a gap between undergrad and grad school?
3 years.
Okay. So you had a 3-year gap.
So I'm working professionally. I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't want. And I didn't want to, like I said, have no health insurance, living in a basement apartment.
Were you already married?
Yes. I got married fall of '99, so summer after I graduated. My wife, between my wife's junior and senior year of college, and I did an extra semester.
Big supporter of you?
Yes.
Yeah. Any comments you want to make to the young people about marrying well?
I got her. Sorry.
The importance of it, right?
No, other than she knew what she was getting into. As you're involved in the arts, you're not around a lot. Maybe that's what makes it work, right? Because this is a lot to deal with every day, so it's probably good. I will say this. I mentioned my father was military. When he would come back from a deployment, there was this readjustment period where, the family gets used to not having that person around, and then they come back in, and it can be weird. So when I was gone a lot for theater, and then suddenly I'm home, we would realize, we were like, what's going on? There's a little, and re-entry.
Yeah.
And we would
Yeah.
just sort of nod.
Were you underfoot?
And we would be like, I was, annoying, So I think she's grateful that we're different. She's an introvert. I'm more of an extrovert. She recharges with alone time. I don't really need that much alone time. And so it's probably good for her that I'm not around a lot. But she's extremely patient. She keeps me grounded and lets me do all the crazy stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, okay, you want to take us into graduate school?
Sure.
How did that form the direction?
Yes.
And who should go to graduate school?
I don't
Do you
know.
have any ideas?
I don't know.
Any thoughts on that?
It's changed. I'm in higher education. I am a recruiter for Gulf Coast State College, and I can speak to the wonderful opportunities you have at Gulf Coast and right here at FSU Panama City, world-class institutions right in your backyard. But I was that 18-year-old kid that wanted to get the heck out of here, especially if you grew up here.
Yeah. But you're back.
But I am back. And
I'm back.
A lot of people
Yeah.
see the world, and then they're like, this isn't a bad place to raise your kids.
It's a great place.
So, but I didn't expect to be here this long. I'm back now almost 18 years, which is crazy to me. It was 3 years. Military, family, and then undergrad and grad school and everything. So yeah, I went to Ohio State, and my goal there, the reason I went to graduate school is because I knew I wanted to teach at the college level. And you need to have a master's degree to do that in most fields. And so I applied 60 applications. We got a map of the U.S., we put it over our couch, and I put a thumbtack. All I wanted was a full-time job with benefits. I was tired of having, one year I had like 20 1099s at the end of the year, and I was like, I just want one paycheck from one place, full-time job with benefits. That's all I want. So full application to colleges all over the country. Put a thumbtack in. If I got a phone interview, I put a paper clip on the thumbtack. And if I got an on-site interview, I put a little charm on the paper clip on the thumbtack. There were not many charms, not many paper clips, but a lot of thumbtacks. And I had a buddy who was teaching high school in California, and I went out for a theater conference. He's like, I'm moving back to New York. You should consider applying for this job. And I arrogantly said, I didn't go to grad school to teach high school. After the round of applying for 60 jobs and not getting any of them, I'm like, hey, Pete, is that job still available? And so I did. I went and took it. It was a private high school in Watsonville, California, right outside Santa Cruz. And it was a great opportunity for me. And then
what did you learn while you were there?
I learned how hard it is to be a one-person show as a high school drama teacher. You are the acting director, you are the technical director, you are the costume, you are lights, you are everything. So in my role as a professor at Gulf Coast, a theater professor, I knew my K-12 colleagues. I knew what they were dealing with. I knew what they were doing. So I think it made me a better colleague, I hope. So then I'm teaching high school in California. Rosie O'Bork, who was the chair of visual and performing arts across the street at the time, called and said, we have a position open, and the timing was bad because our son had just been born. He was 14 days old, and we hopped on a plane and flew cross country. My poor wife, she had had a C-section, and we're on a plane. The moms in the room are throwing things at me right now. I can feel it. But we got a wheelchair, and we piled all the furniture, all the furniture from California we put on a wheelchair. All the bags we hung on her wheelchair. So if you look at the photos from that trip, it looks like we made this poor woman carry all of the bags in the airport. But
oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so we started a week late. That was fall of 2008. And
fall of 2008, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
it was a great time for you.
That was a great time as a
business.
builder, right? I know. But actually, you were getting a paycheck in fall of 2008. I was not.
That's fair.
So there's a nice trade-off.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So I was a theater professor, And it was weird. I thought there'd be a lot more training. The weird thing about college academia, unlike high school, like I never took a teaching class my whole life. I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but some of my Gulf Coast colleagues are here. I was a tenured theater professor before I ever had a pedagogy class, before I ever had a class or a workshop about how to be a teacher. This is why some of your college professors are really good teachers, and some of them are just really great experts in their field. And you'll find they're not always the same people. We're fortunate that I think we have a lot of the people that are both at Gulf Coast and FSU, but just know in your college career, sometimes they're just going to be an expert in the field and maybe have had no training as a teacher. And I sort of had to sort of play catch up doing that. So yeah, I did that for 7 years, and then after 7 years, I became the chair of Visual and Performing Arts.
Still at Gulf Coast?
Still at Gulf
Okay.
Coast. And then...
Were you doing anything else on the side at the time?
A little bit.
Juggling?
A little bit.
Were you juggling?
I
You started juggling?
Yeah, I took a juggling class in college.
Okay.
And did that. Yeah, I got into comedy sort of right after the hurricane.
Okay.
Actually, right before the hurricane.
Oh, there's a big. Okay, so we got 2008. You started.
Yeah. I was theater professor. I was directing plays. I was.
What were some of the things that stood out to you that you really enjoyed? I remember I had one of my students. Remember one of my very first entrepreneurship students was you were one of his professors.
Hilario?
Yes, Brian.
Yeah. Brian's doing great. He just
Yeah.
did grad school at Rutgers.
Yep,
In
Rutgers.
playwriting.
Yep.
And he's getting some traction
Yeah.
in New York with a lot of his writing.
He is an awesome,
Yeah.
awesome man.
One of the coolest projects we did while I was there was a collaboration with Bay Arts Alliance. And are any of you remember when the Civic Center was here, they would bus first, third, and fifth graders to the Civic Center to see plays?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So one year, Jennifer Jones at Bay Arts Alliance commissioned Gulf Coast State College Visual and Performing Arts to create an original musical. So Steve Dunovit, who was a former colleague of ours, he and his daughter wrote a book called Miracle of the White Leaves, and we did a 3-semester project where we turned this book into a musical, and we performed it for like 2,500 third graders at the Civic Center. And what I loved about that project is it was 3 semesters long. The first day of the first semester of class, I'm like, 3 semesters from now, you were performing this non-existent show for 2,500 third graders.
Wow.
And there aren't many projects you have in school that have that kind of a tangible deadline.
Yeah.
And we worked backwards. And I remember that one because that's kind of how I function now. What's the date?
Yeah.
Give me the date, and we'll figure it out, and we'll make it work.
Yeah. I think there's like a law about that. You'll fill the space.
Yeah.
Was it Pareto's law? Pareto's law? I think it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
smart, doesn't it?
So somewhere along this way, Justin Butler, so we'll get into the comedy thing, how that happened. So Justin Butler, who is a former student of mine at Gulf Coast, he's working at Destination Panama City as of January 20th, I think, for the second time, yeah. And he started an open mic at Mosey's downtown. And I thought it would be a bunch of locals. It was me, Justin, my brother-in-law, who I made go with me, and these guys drove over from Tallahassee for an open mic. They drove 2 hours to tell jokes in a bar. And I was like, these guys are crazy. Crazier than musicians, right? That stage time is everything. I mean, Nikki can practice guitar in her house, but comedians can only do what they do in front of an audience. So that's why they were so crazy for it. So I went to that one open mic, and then I got busy with theater and everything. But then Justin started a 10 p.m. open mic on a Monday night at Mosey's, which sounds like a horrible time. But it was perfect for me because I was leaving theater rehearsal at the college. So I'm driving home, and I would go every Monday night, and somehow I got hooked. And it was at a time in my life where I needed a creative outlet that was not administrative, right? So as a division chair, as a supervisor, we do this a lot. We take good teachers and we make them administrators, and that's not always the best fit.
It happens in just about every organization. The
Yeah.
best engineers become the managers of
Right.
engineers, and they get to stop engineering, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so for I needed a creative outlet. So what attracted me to stand-up comedy was it was just me. It was nobody else's schedule. It was just me. I didn't have to rehearse with anyone else. I didn't have to coordinate. I didn't have to plan anything. So if it works, it's just me. And if it fails, it's just me. And there was something exciting about that. And so I sort of got hooked, and we started producing shows.
Was this 18, you said?
This was 18.
Okay.
And then the hurricane happened.
Yep.
And all the venues closed. And so I think stand-up comedy took off because you don't need much. You can just have a corner in a restaurant, right? You don't have to have the Civic Center or the Martin Theater, or you don't need to have a big space. And then Justin Butler had to move away because of the hurricane, and I took over with Emma Franco. Did you have Emma? She was a Gulf Coast student and an FSU student. She graduated from here, communications program.
Okay.
Emma and I teamed up, and we started producing. So this sort of hobby only became a business when venues that we wanted to work with were asking for, proper documentation, right? They didn't want to hire us without, a W-9 or whatever, tax documents. Because sometimes it's just, in the early days, it was like, cash under the table. But if you want to do more legitimate venues and work with more legitimate organizations, they're a business, so you kind of have to be a business. So that's where it happened, by accident.
So clarify, were you the one performing also, or were you bringing the talent?
Initially just performing.
Okay.
Then started bringing the talent in.
Talk to us a little bit about how did people start coming to you that maybe you went after them to find the talent? How did that
No,
happen?
the weird thing is somehow we developed this reputation for producing high quality stuff. And I didn't understand it because touring comedians would come through and they're like, "Man, you guys really run a tight ship here. This is really well done." And I was like, "Really?" I mean, we were just doing what we did in the theater, right? The professional standard of any theater I'd been involved with, from community theater up to college and professional. But apparently that doesn't translate everywhere. Because when I started going on the road a little bit and performing other places, I was like, "Oh, I see." The basic stuff you think you would know, like how long am I performing? Am I getting paid? What's the order? What's the venue? Is there some people don't necessarily communicate all this stuff, and so just by comparison, we sort of build a reputation as being, I don't know, good to work for, because we actually, paid people when we said we were going to pay them and told them when
Imagine
they were
that,
working.
right?
The bar was pretty low, I
Yeah.
guess, for comedians working out and about.
Yeah, you were coming from an organization that had more structure to
Right.
it. It sounds like, right? And so it was maybe a breath of fresh air for some of the people that were really not sure how all of that worked. You were like, "Yeah, we have the structure. We'll bring this into your organization, or bring this into your venue." Hey, I would like to point out, if you did not get something to eat, we do have some extra food over here, so you're welcome to get up and get yourself something to eat. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it just sort of happened, and things. So 4 years ago, I created an LLC. It's called Fearless Crane Productions, but everyone knows it as Panama City Comedy.
What was the name of
front.
your LLC again?
Fearless Crane Productions.
Fearless Crane. Tell me about the name.
Yeah, so I was in a guest artist workshop in undergrad, and we had this British director who came over, and he did this exercise where you had to sit in a circle, and the group had to give you a name, and it had to be an animal and an adjective, and the group had to come to consensus on what it would be, and you could have no input, and you couldn't move on until everyone in the group agreed that that was your nickname. So we had like Acoustic Gecko, my friend Duke, you were just like, "Yeah, he's cool," and everything made sense. You're like, "Yeah." And there was an organized bear. It was kind of a weird activity, but mine was Fearless Crane, like the bird. And I was like, "What? What does that even mean?" Like, I guess there was something bird-like about me. I don't know. I was thinner then, I guess, I don't know. And then fearless, and I was like, and I revisited this recently, and it's not that I'm not afraid, it's that I'm scared, and I do it anyway. And if you wait till you're not scared, you're not going to do it. As an acting teacher, I would teach students. Stage fright usually happens when your focus is on the wrong thing. If you put all your focus and attention on the other person in the scene, or the audience if there's no one else in the scene, there's not much energy left to be looking at yourself. So it's usually a focus issue. There's adrenaline. Like, I've got adrenaline right now. I'm opening a play at Emerald Coast Theater Company tomorrow night, and the whole weekend's almost sold out, and tonight's our last dress rehearsal, and I'm going to be a little nervous standing in the wings tomorrow night before we go on. But I've been in that place enough to know that, okay, this is a familiar feeling. We can do this. So the irony, to get over the stage fright or the whatever, the fear, you have to put yourself in the very situations you're afraid of in order to sort of build that muscle.
Yeah. Do you remember any time when you were younger that you were afraid to do something and you did it anyway, that you looked back on later and you said, I did it then, maybe I could do it now? Does anything stand out at all? I know, because the reason I'm going to give you a second to think about it. The reason why I'm saying this is a lot of times we will look back on things and say, man, that was a real challenge in my life, but I overcame it, and I didn't know how I was going to overcome it. I'm faced against a new challenge now. I know I'm going to get through this. And so maybe it's fear, maybe it's a fearful thing, maybe it's just a hurdle you have to get over, but building on those things that we've accomplished over a long period of time.
I can't think of any from being a kid, because
Okay.
all of my performing arts experience pre-7th grade was traumatic, right? Like I moved back and forth from here to Virginia, so I went to Lynn Haven Elementary for kindergarten and 1st grade, and I remember I was.
So did I.
Did you?
Yeah.
I had to be the tooth in a play, and
I didn't get that part. Actually,
yeah, it was a pretty coveted role.
Yeah.
And but I was terrified.
I watched from
terrified.
there, yeah.
Terrified. I didn't want to do it. I lied. I told them I was visiting my grandparents in Louisiana, so I didn't have to do it, and I stayed home.
As a kindergartner, you did this?
Or 1st grade. I can't
my
remember. And then in 3rd or 4th grade, we had to do the social dancing was popular in school. So some kids
The
got to
do
do
one?
Yeah, but we had to do the Mexican hat dance for some reason. And my mom was responsible. They don't do this anymore, right? It's probably cultural appropriation. But at the time, we were, I don't know.
They should bring it back. It sounds good.
The dancing is good. I was supposed to wear a sombrero. Anyway, my mom bought me a sombrero, but she brought me a Spanish-style sombrero instead of the Mexican sombrero, which is very different, right? The Spanish sombrero looks more like the Heisenberg hat from, help me, Breaking Bad, yeah. But it had the little balls on it, right? So my mom buys me this plastic Spanish sombrero that barely fits on my head. So it's sitting up there more like a yarmulke. And I'm up there, and I bought these blue cargo pants because I thought they looked appropriate. And when I cut the tag off the back of these pants, I accidentally snipped part of the pants. So am I allowed to stand up? I'm standing up. Okay, so there I am with this too small hat, kind of falling off, wearing these blue cargo pants with this little hole in the back. And as I'm dancing or whatever, like, I'm just super self-conscious because the hat keeps falling off, and the little hole in the back of the pants is just sort of like spreading. And I was like mortified. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm never, ever doing this again. And then in 7th grade, I met a teacher named Sharon Bevan, who took all the wannabe class clowns and put them in a class called drama. And that's the one moment, like, in a play, we talk about the inciting incident, right? That's the moment. That's the moment.
You think back to that moment?
That moment.
Yeah.
When she saw something in us, and we reenacted the original Saturday Night Live sketches for a couple years, and then I did improv, and then play. It was that moment. It was that teacher. It was that
Have
teacher.
you thanked her?
I have.
Good.
And I'm I'm not sure she remembered me because
okay.
I tracked down her email. You know, it was going to be like an Oprah episode. I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And I sent her this like huge email about how life-changing it was. And I think she sent me like a one-page reply, one sentence reply. She's like, oh, yeah, I think I remember it. You know, and you're like, oh. But
Thanks for changing my life.
Thanks for
Right.
changing my life. But I'm glad I got to tell her because you don't always get to do that. And I think that's why it's a lunch and learn, right? Eating and learning are two of my favorite things. Yeah. And I think it's why I still work in education, because teachers are my heroes. They've always been my heroes. They always will be my heroes. We all have that teacher, or will have that teacher, who changed the course of our life, for good or for bad.
Yeah, that's so true. And I can think back to sometimes in my own life too. But this is about you, so.
All right.
We're a little past 2018.
Yeah.
You're growing your business, Fearless Crane.
Yeah, so I started the LLC in 22, 23, 24, 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for 2 years, Emma Franco and I sort of
Partners? Are you partners in
produced
this?
it.
Co-owners?
Not legally. She created an LLC, so we had a legit bank account and all of that. And then when she needed to step away, she just took the money we had. Like, for legal reasons, it was all her.
Yeah.
But we were sharing the work.
Yeah.
And then when she decided to step back, she just took the money that we had left, and that became the startup money for the new LLC that I created.
Okay.
Which was like $1,500, right? It
yeah.
was like nothing.
Yeah.
And
and you know what? Sometimes we just do things because we're in that moment and we are like, okay, well, I don't have an account. Do you have an account? Okay, we'll use your account, right? And sometimes that can cause a problem down the road, right?
No, it can, but fortunately it didn't.
It fortunately did not for you.
So I created my own, and I went to a couple of those, like, how to start your own business seminars, right? And where I got burned is in the state of Florida, tickets to events you have to pay sales tax on them, right? And I was using a platform called Eventbrite, which is pretty popular, and they pay the sales tax. They collect it from the customer, and they pay it to the state. Square does not, or did not at the time. Fortunately for me, most of my sales were through Eventbrite. But at the end of that first year, I got, like some overdue notices because I didn't pay sales tax on 4 quarters. It wasn't a lot of money, and the penalty was like $50, and it was no big deal. But my friend Karen Smith advised many years ago, she said, hire people to do the things you're not good at, or at least that's the way I heard her say it. And so I got a bookkeeper.
That's true.
I got a bookkeeper because I am not the math guy. And so even before I could really afford it, I have somebody who does my books and somebody who does my taxes, because it would take me twice as long, and I'm not good at it.
And they really enjoy it.
Apparently.
They do.
Yeah.
And you pay them to do it.
Yes. And that's true. We would say that. We say that to students at Gulf Coast. We'd say, like, why do I have to take this math class? And I remember saying, well, because you need to know that there's some people that enjoy math as much as you enjoy theater.
That's right.
But I will give this shout out. I do remember being in a math class because I was that kid. I took AP in high school, so I didn't have to take college English, but I had to take developmental or remedial math in college. I took the ACT. I got a letter, and they said, I'm sorry, sir, I think there's a mistake. We've never seen math scores this low in relation to the English scores. And I was like, no, that looks right. So Jay Yamut was an adjunct professor across the street, and he drew the XY axis on the board. And he started drawing airplanes. And he started to show us how air traffic controllers basically use that grid. And I was sold. I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm glad there are people in the world that know what that means. So
that's awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
But you have a master's degree now.
I have a master's degree in acting.
Yeah.
In theater.
But you have a master's degree from Ohio State?
I do. Ohio State.
The
Brian.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
The Ohio State. The Buckeye. The Buckeye thing, whatever that is. So
it's a poisonous nut.
It's a poisonous nut. Yeah. I prefer the Seminoles. So okay.
I would have come to Ohio State if they paid me to go to grad school too.
You would have come to Florida State.
I did. I started a second master's program here a few years ago. I took one class, and I may do it again. But in full honesty, I didn't have the time. It was the organizational management and communication, completely online, amazing program. and I hope to come back to it one day. But I didn't have time to run a small business because I have a full-time busy job. I didn't have time to run a small business on the side and go to school to learn how to run a full business on the side. So I chose
That would have been three things. I mean, that would have been three big things.
three big things.
Yeah.
So I chose the one that was more fun
Yeah.
and
That's good.
scarier
No, that's good.
and less papers.
Lives into the name of your business too.
Yeah.
Fearless Crane.
Yeah. So for 4 years now, I've had the LLC, and every year it's gotten bigger. And this year I'm consciously slowing down, trying. It's weird. Here's what happens. You tell the universe you're slowing down, and now suddenly I'm getting all these calls from people who would never pick up the phone. And
They don't want to be. They don't want to be left out.
No,
Right.
there's well, it's funny. There's a local business owner who I tried forever to get into their venue. I won't name names, don't worry. For years to get into that venue. Got stood up 4 times by different managers and things like that. And they hit me up yesterday, and
it works.
And I was like, this is crazy. So I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm
The
trying to
point
do
I was
that.
making a second ago when I was bringing up that you have a master's degree. It is in. You said acting.
Right.
But you have you're a success. You are a success in our community and a known name, and you didn't let the things that you couldn't do well stand in your way of not becoming successful. And so I think that is really important for young people to hear, is that there are going to be things you do well and there's going to be things you don't do well. Just because you don't do one thing well doesn't mean you can't be successful. And so following after those things that you are good at, and I'm not saying follow your dream, follow your passion. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are things that you're going to have to do that are going to be hard.
Right.
But also you have made it to a level that you're getting to do some things that you really enjoy now because you haven't given up.
I think so. I want to go back to your follow your passion, follow your dreams. Because whatever reason, when you work in the arts, that for some reason that phrase comes out a lot. Like no one ever says that to an accountant.
They're just waiting for someone to say that,
It's
though,
good
because
to
it
see
is.
you.
It
Good
is.
to see you following your dreams. Good to see you following your dreams, engineer. Like, is it their dream? Is it my dream? I'll be honest, this isn't my dream. I was just doing comedy shows, and then suddenly it got bigger, and I had to. So when you do a play and you don't feel good about the performance, and people come up to you afterwards and they're like, that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. You have 2 choices. You can say thank you, or you can say, oh no, that was horrible. That stunk. That was the worst one I did. Don't do that, right? Because you're robbing them of that opportunity to compliment you. To them, maybe it was the best thing they've ever seen. Or maybe it was just nostalgic for them in some way. So I've had to learn that. So now when people say things like, hey man, good to see you following your dream, I want to be like, it's not my dream. I'm just doing a thing, and it got big, and I don't know what to do. I'm trying to put the brakes on it right now. 2026, I'm trying to experience this year a little differently. I'm trying to be a little more reflective. I've got 4 years of data now, and I can look at these profit and loss statements, whatever that is. And I can go to somebody. I could go to somebody like a Brian and be like, what is this? Like, help me know what's here. I'm trying to evaluate, because sometimes the shows that I like the most aren't the most profitable to continue doing, and vice versa. So I'm much like I was a tenured theater professor before I took a teaching class.
Yeah.
I've now been a private business owner, entrepreneur for 4 years, and I'm now sort of like trying to step back a little bit and be like, okay, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And do I want to be doing it, and why am I doing it? Because there is a risk associated with letting your hobby become a business. It's okay for it just to be a hobby. It's okay. I'm my own patron in a lot of ways. Here's the other thing this is really in the weeds stuff, but my biggest fear of creating, when I created a LLC, here's how ignorant I was about business. It's a sole proprietorship, But I thought by creating this business, my taxes, I'd have my family's taxes and my business taxes. Yeah, you're in high school and you know that's wrong because I never took a business class, right? So when tax time came, my biggest fear was that I was going to ruin the family's income tax refund, right? By suddenly doing all this thing. It actually came out as a wash and it was fine. But that's how naive I was about it. I was thinking it was just going to be two totally separate things. And there's advantages to different types of things, you know. But that was a big one where I was like, oh, man, I thought I was going to keep it totally separate. But
Nope.
no.
Nope, that's not.
So
But it is very wise to once you get to a certain point with whatever side hustle or dream you have going on over here to create an LLC, because there's a lot of benefits to that. I mean,
Sure.
you live in a country that rewards people for doing that, because now that phone, I can assure you, unless does Gulf Coast pay for your phone?
No.
Okay, but your business does.
Yes.
They should, at least, right? I mean, and many other things that go along with that,
Right.
right? There is reason that we can expense things, because our government wants us to be able to create a business and grow a business and then eventually grow revenue, right?
Right.
Then we're going to ultimately pay more taxes
Yeah.
as it floods into our own.
That is true, because initially when I finally figured out the sales tax thing, by the way, and I paid it quarterly. But then I got this thing in the mail where suddenly they wanted it monthly, and I was like, oh no, what did I do? I messed up. No, I was doing good. I was finally making enough that they wanted their money every month instead of every quarter. So that was actually a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thought. I've never articulated this ever out loud other than right now, but one of my favorite things about having a small business that's not my main thing is it has allowed me to be charitable financially in a way that I can't justify from my personal expenses, my personal finances. And that has been really, really cool. I don't have a why when it comes to the whole comedy thing, but that has felt really good. I meet with the accountant next week, but last year Panama City Comedy was able to donate thousands of dollars to local nonprofits and
That's awesome.
and few individuals,
Yeah.
which I was like, holy, I've never been able to do that in my life as an individual.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's about as close to a why as I have right now.
Yeah.
But I hesitate to say that publicly because now I'm going to get bombarded with, can you do a fundraiser for us?
Yeah.
Do some
You're
comedy
donating.
jokes for
Panama
us?
City Comedy is
they'll
donating.
do it all.
Well, you know what? We were talking about this yesterday. Was a
More
business.
donations than profit, by the way, Brian. I want to make sure that I'm clear about that.
Okay.
Okay.
You need more profit than donations.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
I'm saying that in a sort of bragging way, but the flip side is there's not a whole lot of profit going on. Here's how I use the business. It allows me also so I perform as a comedian still out of town, and it becomes my expense account for that. A lot of out-of-town gigs don't pay me enough to go. Like if I'm going to go work in Orlando, they may pay me $100 for 15 minutes and maybe a hotel if I'm lucky.
So that didn't cover the gas to get there.
No, I can't afford to do it, but I can afford to do it because the show at Mosey's Friday night, it's going into that fund. So it's allowing me to perform as well. So everything I do related to comedy is all in that fund.
Yeah, it's
So
a
that's where
quality of life thing.
I'm subsidizing myself. I'm my own patron.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. It sounds to me it's a quality of life choice that you're making, and so you want to do these things. This other thing can help you get there. So you're making it's a trade-off, really. But
I think so.
I will say the community would miss you if you closed.
Would they?
Yes. Well, you just told me. You just told me something. One, I hear people in the audience saying that.
I don't know. We shut down some. I mean, I'd like to think so, but we put a couple of venues because I was getting burnt out in the spring. I put a couple venues on hiatus for the summer. Little Village, one of our favorite venues. It's hot out there in the summertime, and Dick's Last Resort. We perform out there at Pier Park, but people don't go in the summer because locals don't go out there in the summer. Locals, we've got a show there tomorrow night, Friday night. It'll be mainly locals and snowbirds. so we put it on hiatus, and I kept asking my friend Kelly over at Little Village. I'm like, did anybody ask about us while we were gone? I know there's so much going on. We were potentially oversaturating the market with numbers of shows. So in some ways, I'm scaling back to see if that helps create some scarcity and then a little more demand.
Yeah.
For what we're doing.
Well, you saw what happened when you got the call yesterday, right?
I did.
Yeah. Okay. So it is happening. But I want to circle back to something about you making an impact on our community. You just mentioned that you were able to make donations to to local charities or individuals or whatever that you would not have been able to make. So if you were not doing what you're doing, some would be missing out. Okay.
That's true.
In addition to the enjoyment that people get going to the comedy club.
Right.
And I'll just share this from personal experience. This last year, one of my own personal goals was to take my wife on a series of memorable dates that would be out of the ordinary of things that we would normally do. We would not typically go to a comedy show. It just wouldn't be something that we would typically do. But when I heard about the comedy program that you had, I reached out to you, and that was one of our dates. And we had the best time. It was so good.
Good. Which one did you come to?
It was in Roberts Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, in Roberts Hall. Yeah, and it was fantastic. There was 3 or 4 acts, and it was stuff that we could relate to, the way that they were communicating, and it was awesome. It was something that it improved our experience for the night. So I want to say keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you. Did you notice? I'm like, which one did you go to?
Yeah. What were the jokes? Okay, so let me go. I want to go back to the concept of getting a business started, and you've already kind of stumbled into some of the things, right? I mean,
that's what it's been. It's been a lot of stumbling.
But you did it. That's the thing, is you did the thing, and I know you did it because you got flyers you can pass out over there to invite people to your gigs, right?
Right.
And so let's go back to when you were saying this is actually going to be a thing. This looks like we're going to have a name for it. We're going to have a website. We're going to have business cards. Talk to me a little bit about, like, did you have people that you went to and you said, hey, how do I do this? Or were you just trying to wing it or what?
No, I'm old enough that I've got students and people in my life that they're like, I'll just YouTube it. I don't have the patience for that for some reason. Like, I just have to kind of do it, or I ask people. I do have a few sort of comedy producing mentors. Right? There's a guy named J.P. Leonard, runs Lafayette Comedy in Lafayette, Louisiana. He's doing amazing things. And so if you like anything about Panama City Comedy, I pretty much stole it from JP over in Lafayette Comedy. And he's been very generous with me. He's the kind of guy that if I get something from an agent, we hired Tim Meadows and Kevin Nealon from Saturday Night Live this last year. And these are guys I grew up watching, you know what I mean? And
You were watching them on TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Kevin Nealon is on my payroll. That's pretty
wow,
cool.
That's awesome.
But it's terrifying. I had to wire Kevin Nealon more money than I've ever been paid to do anything just to get him to agree to come as a deposit. That was terrifying. But at the same time, I'm like, if I can't sell 200 tickets to Kevin Nealon, I shouldn't be doing this anyway. And for those of you that don't know Kevin Nealon, it's fine. You Google him, the younger folks. But so it's this weird sort of the scariest stuff. The bigger shows are actually the easier ones to do because they're gonna sell. Yeah. What was the question I didn't answer?
From earlier?
Just a minute ago, you asked me something, and I've been doing it all day, but
yeah, that's okay.
I forget.
No, that's okay. I was asking.
Oh, you asked about starting up a website,
yes,
doing mentors,
okay,
and not for the little stuff. Like eventually I started using Eventbrite, which some of you have produced your own. They just take so many fees if you've used them. So I found one called standuptix.com, and so they run our website. They take a small percentage. I'm finally able to link my social media ads to the website. I was running ads and I was selling out shows, but I couldn't prove to you in court that those ads were selling those tickets. Now I can finally actually see how they're linked with the. I see that they're linked is the non-tech way of saying it.
Okay, so you're figuring out the technical
Yeah.
technical side of
But
it. Okay.
the hard stuff is more of the like, I get this message from an agent, and they're using slang because every field of work has their own acronyms and their own slang and their own. I will screenshot stuff and send it to JP, and I'm like, what does this mean? You know, and he'll translate it for me.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's been helpful. He's been a lifesaver.
ChatGPT will do that too.
I've heard that.
Yep,
I've
yep,
heard that.
yep.
I just use it to make weird pictures of my friends. Yeah, so far.
Hey, so I think one thing that would be helpful for this group to hear is telling a story about maybe where you planned an event and you didn't know if anybody was going to come.
Everyone, Brian.
Come on now.
Everyone.
Really? Do you feel that way?
Everyone.
Hey, I will say this: the event that I went to was packed. It was packed.
And sometimes they are, and sometimes it's weird. It's weird. I've got 4 years of receipts that say this is going to work, but sometimes it doesn't. And so sometimes you get tricky. You know, I'll let you in on some of my secrets. If you ever see me on Facebook, Panama City Comedy on Facebook, if you ever see me say, somebody donated a pair of tickets, message me to claim. That means I've not sold enough tickets to a particular show, and I'm going to give away as many comps as I want until I pad the room. So it's because at some point you get to the point of it's not just every show. I don't look at it as a show. I look at the big picture. Some shows I lose money on, some shows I break even on, and some shows I make a killing on. And it all sort of balances out. That's why it's so important that I have, with Eventbrite initially, and some ticketing platforms, you don't get paid anything until the event is over. I sold out Kevin Nealon 2 shows, 500 tickets, months before it opened. To not have any, that's like have business that has no income coming in until you deliver the product? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we definitely talk about that in our classes.
So
yeah.
figuring that out.
We were talking about wondering, is this going to actually work?
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Really? I'm surprised.
Every time. Like January, the last 3 years, I'm going to check the ticket link right now. Last 3 Januaries in a row, we've sold out every show we did in January. I don't know why January's good. I would think it would be bad because people are broke from Christmas. A lot of people are
it's cold. They're not going to the beach.
I guess. Or there's nothing else to compete with. But I'm only doing 2 shows instead of 4 or 5 for this weekend. And Mosey's is on track to sell out Saturday night.
Fantastic.
But we've only sold 20 tickets so far for Dick's on Friday. So here's one of the things I don't like. I check this ticket app like an addict.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. Yeah, I don't. So you get panicked, and so sometimes you start. What I say is I throw out some comps, and it works. It's good marketing too. I mean, I've told you my secret, which is fine. But if you ever see that, you'll be like, I see what he's doing. Nobody donated tickets. Somebody donated tickets. It was me. I donated the free tickets.
You're allowed to do that?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
You know the story of Sarah Blakely, who she started the business Spanx. It was the women's undergarment.
I'm wearing
thing.
some right now.
You're wearing some? Okay.
Yes.
Well, when she got started, she called her friends in other cities and said, I'll mail you the money. Go buy the product.
Okay.
And she started selling the products.
That's
so
cool.
that's creative, right?
That is
Yeah.
creative.
She was a Florida State grad, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Female billionaire. Okay. So a couple more things I want to ask you, and then I want to give the audience a chance to ask a few questions. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a question, I don't know if we have another. Do we have another mic? If not, we'll use mine. But if we have another mic, we can get it ready. And if you do have a question, maybe just be thinking about it so we can make it go fast if we're passing one mic around. Okay. A couple more questions I want to ask you. One is, if you're speaking to a high school student or a college student right now, like, what would you want to go back and tell yourself, knowing what you have learned? You know, not that they need to follow your career path, doing what you're doing, okay? But just you're doing some big stuff that is successful. You're helping our community. You're doing some great things for Gulf Coast. You're doing the things for Panama City Comedy. What would you want to go back and tell
I would want to tell myself it's okay not to know what you're going to be doing. There's a lot of pressure on you when you graduate high school and then college. So, as soon as are there any seniors in the room? No
We do have
a
some
couple.
graduates.
All right. Has
Yeah.
it started yet? We're in spring semester now. I'm like, so what are you doing next year? Have those questions started yet? It's okay not to know. It's okay not to know. And it's also okay to realize that, like, I can't believe that something that wasn't even on my radar 8 years ago at all now consumes a large percentage of my free time. I had never been in a comedy club. I've lived all over the country. I had never known anyone that did comedy. We all have friends that gig around. We all know people that play guitar, right, and sing somewhere, or someone in your family. I had never met anyone. Never. First time I ever stepped into a comedy club, I was performing in a comedy club. And I'm in the arts. I don't know how I missed it. So I guess the thing would be is just stay open. Stay open. Go to things that, one of the favorite things I do, Tammy Marinuzzi, art professor across the street, her and Pavel Amroman bring in visual artists, and they do guest lectures when a new show opens. One of my favorite things to do is go listen to those. Go listen to people talk that aren't doing your thing. People that are passionate or experts in another field, because somehow it will feed your thing in a way, somehow, sometimes even in a better way than people that are doing the exact same thing you're doing. So I'd say stay open and don't worry if you don't know what's next. I also like to try on decisions. Like, I'm like, all right, for this 3 days, I'm going to pretend like I'm deciding to go to Ohio State. That feels pretty good. All right. And then for another couple days, I'm going to not go to grad school. I'm going to stay in Seattle and try to earn my equity card as a professional actor. Doesn't feel as good. I didn't want to do that first thing, and I actually try to sit with that for a little bit. And so with big decisions in my life, I try to do that. And then I'm just the way I'm wired. I never know what I want, but I know what I don't want. And the reason I'm trying to slow down a little bit right now is because I felt myself approaching burnout. And I read an article once. It was called "Stop the Glorification of Busy." Stop the glorification of busy. You can Google it. I forget who wrote it. I don't remember. But that phrase, I put it on a Post-it note. My friend, colleague Jennifer knows I have 8 million Post-it notes in my office. But I put this one somewhere up high, special. And it hit me because how often do you have this exchange? How's it going? Busy. Crazy busy.
Good.
As if,
Like
right?
It's like you get a badge.
Right. As if that's the best thing in the world to be. And I'm getting tired, honestly, of people saying, I don't know how you do it all. And I usually say something funny like, don't believe everything you read on Facebook. But the truth is, I'm not doing it all. There are things that are being neglected, right? Everything's a trade-off. There's relationships in my life that are not as strong as they should be. You and I talked about this privately once as being a dad. I've got a junior in high school. He's not going to be. I'm fortunate. My kid wants to be around me, which isn't always true when you have a 17-year-old. And I've only got a few years left where he's there all the time. If I were to draw one of those Venn diagrams, right, or some sort of chart of the thing that is most important to me and where I spend most of my time, they don't necessarily line up. And that's not always easy to sit with. So I'm trying to step back, reflect, because I can do the other thing. I can produce 76 shows in a year and have a full-time job. All right, now what? 77? That's not going to work. The Golden Globes were the other night. When I was at Gulf Coast, um, Priscilla Lopez, my friend Matthew Lopez, he won the Tony Award and the Olivier Award, playwright, one of the best playwrights of his generation. We were college roommates. His parents still live here, Frank and Kathy Lopez, retired high school teachers. We would have, I've met Tony Award winners, and I got to meet Dame Judi Dench, and I realized early on that of my personality, it's like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Well, I want to make sure I'm not one of those guys who regrets that my priorities were out of whack for too long. So that's why after the most successful year of my side hustle, I'm doing less or doing it differently to just try to make sure, just give yourself space to think. I've started turning off my phone once a week, like power it off. Life-changing. Life-changing. That's hard if you're 18, but if you're almost 50, it's actually doable. And when you open the phone back up and realize that the world is still there, I let a few people know for family emergencies. I'll let hey, my phone's going to be off, you know, call Becky, you know.
Do you need me to leave it on?
Yeah, so I got out of that habit, but yeah,
that's great.
I'm trying. So I appreciate this invitation to say that publicly,
Yeah.
so that my friends can hold me accountable. If they're like, it doesn't seem like you're doing less, man. It seems like you're doing the same.
Yeah.
Then they can.
That's good,
Hit
man.
me up.
I appreciate you.
I don't know it's going to
you
work, but
saying that.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
I'm
and
trying.
we'll circle back and talk
Okay.
about some of that stuff offline. I do want to ask you something that we've kind of danced around it a little bit, but you've talked about people in other cities that are killing it or doing it well or whatever. Has there ever been any tension with you that I want to live here and I have this business? I know you have the job at Gulf Coast, but I have this business idea, and it might not ever be as big as I would like it to be if I was to move to a bigger city. Have you ever had that tension?
Say the last part again. If I move to another city.
If I could make it bigger, and a bigger part of my life, maybe I could be immensely successful at it, right?
Right.
If I was to take it to Orlando or Jacksonville or Mobile or whatever, have you ever? Has that been a tension in your life at all? Or are you happy where you are right here?
I'm happy where I am right now. I moved schools a lot as a kid, and that wasn't always fun or easy. I started Mosley the day after spring break of my sophomore year. Not
That's
a great
tough.
time to
No.
start a new school.
No.
I ate lunch by myself every day for the rest of sophomore year. I hated life. I hated my parents. And then I found my people, in theater, drama club, and whatever, and it all sort of worked out. So no, I'm content now. My son's gonna come to Gulf Coast. He's really interested in the classics program over in Tallahassee. He's a Latin nerd, and so I see us here for a while. Maybe not forever, but at least for. I'm not chomping at the bit to get out of here like I was years ago.
Yeah.
We were only supposed to be here for a few years.
Yeah.
And you hear that story over and over again with people of our age. But everything's a trade-off. You know what I mean? I don't like that in the summer you got to hide from the sun most of the day. I don't like that it takes an hour for us to get to an interstate. It makes me insane. But there are some trade-offs. A lot of people save up their money all year round just to come here for a week or two.
No.
That's pretty cool. You can be part of. There's a strong artistic community here. I feel like we're punching above our weight class for the size of this community. I've felt that way for a long time. So there's something cool about being part of that. So No, I've lived other places, and everything's a trade-off.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. What I would like to do is take a couple minutes, and if anybody has specific questions they would like to ask, could you raise your hand? And I'll be sure to get the mic passed around. Okay, so anybody up in the close front? No? Second table? Third table? Okay, we got a group over here. Okay, how about we have one over here, and then I'm going to go to you first, and you're going to pass the mic over there, okay? Sounds good. And then I will work my way back to owning the mic in a few minutes, okay?
So, is this on?
Yes.
Okay.
Just speak right into it.
So, I wanted to say that I didn't have a question, but when you were talking about your son, I'm around that age. I'm 21. When I was 17, my dad wasn't really in my life. What I would have liked my dad to do was to always call me, always say I love you, always just be there for me when I needed him, always be there on a call, because those little things mean far more than those huge gifts or anything. So I think that would mean a lot for your son. At least that's what I would think.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, here's the thing why I started turning off my phone. He would be talking to me about something he was excited about, and I would be looking at my phone. I caught him touching my shoulder to get me to make eye contact with him, and I was like, oof. It started to feel like somebody was burning me with a cigarette if I felt that. You know what I mean? Like, ouch. My kid is talking to me, and I'm looking at my phone while he's talking to me, and he wants to be talking to me. That hurt. That's why I'm trying to turn off my phone once a week.
As someone in theater and who's been able to experience a bunch of stage fright, can you give some advice to how you calm that into things like interviews or talking on the microphone?
Yes, rehearsal for reality. Recreate the situation as best you can in advance. Like for an interview, if you've got a big phone interview coming up, get one of your friends or one of your teachers or one of your professors to do a mock interview with you in advance. Wear the clothes you're going to wear. Create a place that's almost identical. When I do phone interviews, when I was doing them for jobs, I would send my buddy a list of questions, and he'd call me at an appointed time, just like it's going to be on the real day, and we would rehearse it. If I have to speak somewhere, I want to get into that room beforehand and just know what it feels like, right? I've been in this room many times, so I didn't feel necessarily the need to do that. If whatever you can do, just like you rehearse for those job interviews, figure out the version of how do you rehearse for that thing, right? And so it's a mock interview. Get in the habit. Especially if it's a corporate job, the questions are all the same, and you be prepared. When they ask you, do you have any questions for us? Have one. But don't let it be one that you could have found the answer to on the website. Let it be something that you've actually thought about. If you're in a physical situation like this, and they're interviewing lots of people, come in and change the angle of the chair just slightly. Nobody else will do that, and you will somehow be visually a little more memorable because you've changed the environment slightly. But rehearse it. If you need someone to interview, my card's over there. If you need someone to rehearse an interview with you, I would be glad to do that, or I have theater students that would be glad to help you with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question.
Oh, good.
Would you like the fun question or the serious question?
Your choice.
Okay, I'll go with the fun one. Who would be your favorite person to host, and what do you need to do to get to that point?
Favorite comedian to work with? I don't know. The comedy world is so strange. When I was a kid, we all knew all the comedians because they were only on 3 channels. Now, there are people that are niche famous on different platforms. And so there's a guy named Sebastian Maniscalco who sold out Madison Square Garden, and I had never heard his name. I'm like, how is that possible? But now there's an SNL sketch, and he's one of the top comedians in the country right now. What I like about him is he's very physical on stage. He's almost like a mime. And I saw him, and I'm like, we can do that? I thought we just had to stand there and hold it. And so with my theater background, I'm like, oh, we can move around? There's a young comic named Amber Autry who I don't know Sebastian, but I know Amber, and she's in a similar manner. She's very physical. And I'm like, heck yeah. So my favorite changes all the time. I got to perform with Nate Bargatze at Zany's just before Christmas, which was pretty cool. So I don't know. I guess I'll say for now I'll say Sebastian and Nate Bargatze again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with a serious question, I guess.
Okay, good.
Um,
I thought
so-
that was the serious question. Oh, okay.
So you talk about burnout and
Yeah.
like, acknowledging burnout. What advice would you give to maybe small business owners or students to maybe help acknowledge like potential burnout or upcoming burnout and help prevent it?
That's a great question. See, what I think I've been to a lot of these, and I feel like I'm the first person up here talking who the thing they were talking about isn't their main thing, right? I would have to approach this differently. Like, I could shut the doors on Panama City Comedy tomorrow, and there'd be no problem. Like, I'd have a couple dozen disappointed comedians, really, that I've booked through the rest of the year. But I don't have rent, I don't have overhead. I didn't say this, but we partner with local venues. I don't maintain a brick and mortar. And there's times where I wish we did, because I'm tired of hauling gear all over the panhandle of Florida in my 2017 Toyota Camry. Every time I'm loading in, people are like, dude, you need a bigger vehicle. I'm like, I know, but then it means we got to do more shows. So it doesn't fit in the car, we can't do it. So I think I'm in a unique situation in that, but I've had it in my main job too. You know, I remember when I was getting stressed out as division chair in visual and performing arts, and I was feeling a lot of stuff internally, but I didn't realize, I thought I was hiding it better, and it wasn't until some colleagues pointed out to me how it was manifesting and impacting other people. So I guess the advice would be, have some trusted people around you that know you and can call you out politely or not politely if you have that kind of relationship with them. Because sometimes we're blinded to it. And we think, you know, my dad was a workaholic. I've certainly inherited that gene or that personality trait, whatever. So that's my best advice, is to try to catch it early and do it's different for everybody. Like me, I gotta unplug. You know, it's the phone. I have to be all or nothing. I bust my colleague Jen's chops because she has her work email notifications come to her phone, and I'm like, you have that coming to your phone? There's no way I could do that, because I can't. Or to her watch, right? And I was like, I can't. I have to separate it. I don't have any notifications on my phone for social media, anything like that. I couldn't do it. I'm cold turkey. When I go on vacation for the holidays, I put the away message, and I don't check an email. Because if I were to check an email, then it starts. And then my brain, and I can't live in both worlds. I have to like cut it off. So whatever works for you, disconnect, get in nature, but have people that you trust that can see the warning signs early, and it manifests itself differently in different people, right?
Thank you.
Sure.
Do you
Sorry,
have any,
Jen.
Do you have any systems in place to like stay creative while also like doing the business side of things?
Man, great question. That's the biggest fear, right? My biggest fear was being a theater teacher who used to be an actor. Ouch, right? So my whole life, people have tried to get me to pick. They're like, do you want to be a teacher or you want to be an actor? And I'm like, why can't I be both? Because one feeds the other, right? So now the question is, well, do you want to be a producer or do you want to be a comedian? Well, why can't I do both? Right now they're out of whack. I'm not writing like I should. All the writer friends in the room, Nikki and Britt and Lou and others, they say you're supposed to write daily. I don't write daily. I hadn't written a joke in 3 years that's good enough to tell on a show out of town where I'm being paid. And that's a problem. So you've got to take something off the. I had a boss once. When somebody complained about having too much on their plate, his advice was to get a bigger plate. I don't think that's the right answer. So you've got to be willing to take something off the plate. And so for me, because the hardest, we didn't talk about this, but the hardest thing for me is marketing. That's the thing that just drains me. Like if I have to see another of my own social media, Facebook posts, I want to punch myself in the face. You know, it's like, and my friend Juan Martinez, who owns Juan Taco, if you haven't been, he said to me once, because he's the king of like irreverent, fun marketing. That's not everyone's cup of tea, by the way. But he's like, dude, you're running a comedy production company. Your marketing can be more fun. The truth is, I don't have the energy to be creative. I'm just cranking it out there. And so, no, I don't have any strategies, but I hope this year to find some of them by giving me some space. And I'm not going to get another bigger plate. I'm just going to take something off the plate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how do you book venues for PCB Comedy? You said you don't have any like set partnerships or anything, so do people just reach out to you, or do you reach out to them?
A little bit of both. We have a bunch of venues that we go to monthly. Like we're at Mosey's every third Saturday of the month. Last year we had 4 different shows that we did. It was on the set thing, and we worked it out with the venue. I turned down a lot of venues because a lot of venues just aren't good for comedy. You can have background music. You can't have background comedy. I need everyone in the room to be there on purpose for comedy. So yeah, I reach out to the venue. Normally I keep ticket sales, they keep food and beverage. That's my deal with most venues.
Sounds good.
Get a couple right here, and if you'll pass it behind you.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here. My question is, you brought up earlier that when comedians came to perform for your company, they were surprised by how well-oiled of a machine it was. And you contrasted it to theater, where that seemed like the standard. My experience with arts administration has been the former, where it's just like kind of a nightmare sometimes. Why do you think that is in different areas of arts administration, and what do you think makes theater different?
I don't know that it makes theater different, but from a production value, there was a certain standard that we met. I've certainly experienced the fact that sometimes the artistic personalities aren't the most organized. I don't think you have to be a tortured soul to be a comedian. I also don't think you have to be a disorganized flake to be a producer or in the arts. But I think the arts does tend to attract some personalities that have different strengths. And we talked about earlier, sometimes we take good teachers and make them administrators. So sometimes if we take good artists, make them teachers, make them administrators, sometimes the problems just sort of follow them. And I say that as a administrator who learned a lot on the job and made a lot of mistakes along the way. But I think the production value is what I translated from theater over to comedy. That was a refreshing for some folks.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
One more question.
So the heavy question. I heard a question over here. Who would you like to, and no offense, but Robin Williams would have been the one that I would have.
That's fair. Yeah, yeah.
You know, sorry to throw that at you.
No, that's
but
great.
My question is, have you accessed or used mental health services? Because I see a lot of artistic thought, and that thought carries all over the place. But I don't see them coming into my office or other offices and utilizing what should be an everyday service for people,
Sure.
you know, but it's not being utilized. So have you used any kind of mental emotional health service?
I certainly have, yeah. About a year after the hurricane, I certainly did. I'm a big proponent of therapy and counseling, and I encourage people to take advantage of it. Here, are you here at FSU?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Same thing at Gulf Coast. We have a licensed mental health counselor. You know, Cindy Bochelle is amazing. It's been a couple of years. It's probably time for me to get back in there, but I've spent many a time in Cindy's office, and I encourage you all to do that, regardless of your line of work, to take advantage of those things, particularly when you're a student and they're easier to access. Yeah,
We take care of our bodies, right? We need to take care of our minds as well.
absolutely,
You know?
absolutely. No shame in that whatsoever.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Great point.
Thank you. And Jason, I just want to say, man,
man.
thank you. This was a great conversation.
I appreciate
First
it.
crier we've had on the
Yeah,
stage.
dude, why did I have
But-
to be the guy?
But it
yeah.
was excellent. It was
but-
excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to thank Arnold High School for joining us today, the Collegiate School, those from our business community that have come to be supportive, our Florida State students. Thank you guys for coming today. I know we got some buses to catch, and you guys have a wonderful